Hello everyone, and welcome to a very unusual kind of video for my channel. I don't normally do these free flow, unscripted kind of videos, but I think they're cool to do every now and then. You know, they strike a good balance between the scripted stuff and just kind of a more natural way to get my thoughts out there. So getting right to it, PlayStation had their State of Play presentation today, in which we got some really exciting news in the form of Iron Man VR. That's right, I got my Iron Man mug here ready to go. No alcohol in this, just water. I got Iron Man back here hanging out with me, listening to me talk about his game. So anyway, yeah, jumping right to it, Iron Man VR, man, that's something that just naturally comes to mind, doesn't it? You think of Iron Man and a VR game. It's just so fitting for the character. You know, ever since the first movie back in 2008, ever since they introduced that aesthetic of Tony Stark whenever he pops down his helmet and you get the heads-up display with the reticules and all the data coming into the display. That's something that you can easily incorporate and implement into a VR game, and it's happening. So yeah, just to kind of give you some thoughts on the first trailer. I got to say, a second into it, and when I saw the inside of the jet and all that, I was like, yeah, this is Iron Man. This is either Avengers project or at the very least an Iron Man related thing. And yeah, it's frustrating. We haven't gotten any Avengers news yet. You know, we're getting other stuff first, even though the Avengers project was announced way before. We got burnt with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Although you know me, I'm super excited for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Don't get me wrong. But it is frustrating that we haven't gotten any Avengers project news. And you know, again, we got kind of teased thinking this would finally be it, but it ended up being Iron Man VR. But yeah, just to kind of say some things about the trailer. Kind of interesting to have Ghost be what seems to be the main villain of the game. I kind of associated her more with Ant-Man. I mean, I never had any exposure to that villain besides the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. Although she was in Iron Man 2 on the DS. I don't know about the console version. I never played the console version of Iron Man 2, but I did review Iron Man 2 on the DS, and she was a boss in that game. So maybe she is more associated with Iron Man in the grand scheme of things. Let me know in the comments. I haven't read many Iron Man comic books. So yeah, so although the trailer says not actual gameplay, when you get that first those clips of, you know, in the perspective of Iron Man, I would say that's a pretty good idea of what the actual game is going to look like. You know, you tell me there's going to be an Iron Man game, what they showed in the trailer, that's what I would picture. So even though it says not actual gameplay, I think those segments where they show you Iron Man's perspective is a good representation of what we're going to get. And yeah, I mean, it looks like an Iron Man VR game would look like. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I'm not live. How is this happening? I'm not live, am I? Okay. Technical difficulties. That scared the shit out of me. Sorry if that's super loud on your end too. But thank you for the follows. I didn't get to see your names, but thank you for the follows. Anyway, where were we? Yes, Iron Man VR gameplay. The enemies that they showed, the drone, the triangle like drone enemies. I gotta say, not the enemies I would personally go with to showcase in the first trailer. They're really generic, boring looking. I do hope we get more interesting looking enemies, maybe more humanoid looking robots or something like that. You know, drones are. I never found drones as a fun enemy to fight. You know, fitting for Iron Man, but just I hope we get more interesting looking stuff. But anyway, so I actually want to reference an article. I don't know if you guys remember, but David Jaffe, who is the creator of the classic God of War games. I know he's involved with God of War and Twisted Metal, I believe. Let me see this. So this comes from Game Rant, and this article is about a year old, and it's by Jasmine Henry. And yes, so God of War creator and Twisted Metal designer David Jaffe. Okay, so those are his titles in relation to God of War and Twisted Metal. So about a year back, David Jaffe tweeted about a game pitch he had for Iron Man. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to read about that pitch now that an Iron Man VR game is a reality. So it says on Twitter, Jaffe told his 46,000 followers that the Barley Jones team had been prototyping an Iron Man VR game. According to Jaffe's tweet about the project, this virtual reality tie-in would have allowed players to use the PlayStation VR headset's built-in microphone in order to talk to Jarvis while they were flying around in the suit. And that is a super cool idea that we didn't see represented in this trailer that we got. I really, really hope that this feature makes it into the final game, because I know it's a really cheesy thing to say every time we get a new video game based on a comic book character. You know, things like become the Batman, or in this case, become Iron Man. But although it sounds super cheesy to say, you know, you've got the element of the visual, you got the movements with the PlayStation Move controllers allowing you to manually aim and shoot at your enemies with your repulsor blast and stuff like that. Adding voice commands through the VR headset's built-in microphone could do miles for immersion and, again, cheesy to say, but really making you feel like Iron Man. And I mean, that's what VR is all about, you know? I mean, we do get traditional third-person action games. That's usually what we get with superhero games, is a third-person action game. But I think Iron Man leaning hard into a VR genre, I guess, for the lack of a better term, would be the way to go to give you the definitive Iron Man game. And, you know, just going all out with the VR, the manual move controllers and all that, and voice commands, you know, a big part of the Iron Man character being able to interact with his built-in AI in the suit and, you know, give him commands and stuff like that would do so much for this VR game. So continuing on, Jarvis is the artificial intelligence designed by Tony Stark to manage matters in his life, and in the Barley Jones game, the AI would tell players that the suit's battery is low, and players could respond by telling Jarvis to transfer power to the reserves. Again, that's exactly what I would picture, you know, that you'd be able to do with an AI that you can interact with in the game. You know, if you need to make a quick escape from a tight spot, you tell Jarvis, or I guess in this case Friday, you know, transfer powers to flight, and you can quickly shoot out of there as fast as you can and make a quick escape. Or if you're going against a really tough bad guy, transfer power to shields, transfer power to repulsor blast, and give yourself a damage boost and stuff like that. That is just a super cool idea that I hope makes it into the final game. Let's see, continuing on. Additionally, there would be a feature called the Marvel Team Up, which would allow a player on a second screen to help their teammates. Captain America is one such character who would be playable through this feature, though many fans would surely love to play as Spider-Man, giving the upcoming Spider-Man PS4 exclusive. That's kind of funny, reading in hindsight. So this is a feature I can do without. I'd rather have the developers focus on making a full-fledged, defined, focused, definitive Iron Man game before adding more any other extra features like the second screen stuff that allows you to play like other characters. A cool idea, but I feel like it would just feel kind of shoehorned in and not defined. It would kind of just distract from what you should be focusing on, which is, you know, making this the Iron Man game. You know, we got a really good Spider-Man game. We've had multiple great Batman games. I want this Iron Man game to do the character justice, you know? I mean, because when you think that we're gonna get a new comic book game based on whatever character. Automatically I think the common person would kind of just start picturing a third person action game. But like I already said, like in a VR Iron Man game just makes so much sense that I just really want them to go all out and make this, even though it might, I gotta say, it probably would alienate a couple people, because I know VR is not the most accessible thing. A lot of people just see it as a gimmick, but I've always loved VR. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I would dream of virtual reality, and like now it's actually a thing. I hope that they make this the equivalent to what Resident Evil on the Resident Evil VR mode was. That is still very. It's not just a gimmick. It can be seen as a viable AAA full-fledged game, rather than just an experience. I know that that's a word that a lot of people throw around when a couple of VR titles come out. Even in the article, they mentioned Arkham VR, and I think I wouldn't call that a full-fledged game. I do agree that that's more in the vein of like it's a VR experience. There are not a lot of mechanics going on. There's no combat. There's no kind of exploration or stuff like that. It is a $15 to $20 experience. A fair price for what you're getting. Really cool. I mean, I'm not trying to bog it down or anything like that. I think it is really cool for what it is. But I hope that this Iron Man VR game, it's not seen as just an experience, but they take the opportunity to, take the character of Iron Man and really, really go for that ultimate Iron Man game, even though it's not a traditional third-person game. Because I mean, you got to keep in mind, we're getting Iron Man through Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and I guess that doesn't necessarily count because it is more of an ensemble game. But we're still hopefully still getting the Avengers project, which is a more focused, what I would imagine a more focused game than Marvel Ultimate Alliance, because giving it is a smaller roster with Captain America, Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man. And I guess once we get that game, depending on how fleshed out and how unique each character feels within that game, it could kind of, it'll serve as that character's game. If the combat is fleshed enough for that character, you can say, okay, we got our Captain America third-person action game. We got our Iron Man third-person action game in the form of the Avengers project. So again, I think if they really go all out with this Iron Man VR game, some just quick things I want to mention. I know I've been rambling here a lot. I really hope that this is not just an on-rails kind of thing. That's a lot of VR games that you get. It's an on-rails shooter. We've gotten, VR has been out for a couple years now, and I've played a good amount of VR titles, and a lot of them are just shooting galleries, And I don't want this Iron Man VR game to just be just another shooting gallery game. I do hope we actually do get levels, whether it be open. I think I'd rather levels than open world stuff. Just because, if we get levels, you can have your open sky levels where you fly around going all crazy, shooting at all these drones and enemies. But you can also have more structured and slower paced indoor levels to offer, gameplay variety, whether it be through the form of exploration or puzzle solving, or allowing you to use different forms of combat. Maybe in indoor levels you can do more melee attacks, and just different kinds of weapons that are more suited for indoor environments, whether when compared to the open sky outdoor environments, you can go all out with your missiles and lasers and all that. If you look at Megaton Rainfall, I think the developers, Camouflage, I believe the developers' names are. They worked on Republique, I guess you would pronounce it, which is a stealth. I played a couple of episodes. It was kind of an episodic game on mobile. I played the first couple episodes on that, and it was a pretty good stealth mobile game. I jumped on it immediately when I heard that David Hayter was going to be a voice actor in that game. I'm a huge David Hayter fan. So yeah, so I hope they look at Megaton Rainfall. I think they could take a lot of cues from that game. So yeah, Megaton Rainfall is it's a superhero-like VR game where you're playing as this godlike entity and you fly around and you got all these powers, and the flight controls and the power combat controls are super intuitive. And I think if they take cues from that, we can get a really good Iron Man game, again, rather than just an experience. So yeah, I think I've been rambling for enough. Let me know what you think about this Iron Man game, about VR in general. Are you a fan of VR? Would you rather have a more traditional third-person action game for Iron Man, or do you think this could potentially be a really cool idea? Would this make you buy VR? Let me know in the comments below. And for more comic book video game related videos, don't forget to subscribe. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.